The NetApp DS4246, 4243 is still one of the best 24-bay JBODs around. Today we're going to do a deep dive on them. We're going to look at things like wattage. We're going to talk about SAS, SATA, what you would need to make various different configurations work. Also get some noise readings on this. And one of the biggest things to keep in mind is even though this is a SAS 2, it does actually max out the performance of just your traditional SATA or SAS drives. This is a great JBOD and prices have been down on these recently also. So we'll take a look at some accessories, but I can already tell you, having had two of these in the past, I do love the NetApp DS4246. Let's get started. Some of the options that will come with this that you would want to keep an eye out on are whether they come with IOM 3s or IOM 6s. That's the biggest difference between the DS4243, a SAS 1 part, and the DS4246, a SAS 2 part. You definitely need SAS 2 performance once you get to 24. So I did have to buy some parts in addition to the ones that I picked up because those were not going to do, and I knew that I needed the IOM 6s and not the IOM 3s that these came with. But again, you get a good deal, and you got to factor that in. Oh, these are caddies. Okay, so I had to get some caddies also, and deals on caddies are actually pretty reasonable right now also, compared to what they've been in the past. Let me get one of those IOM boxes up here. And you can find links to all this stuff in the description below and on the website digitalspaceport.com. There we go. And we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 in here. And these are the IOM 6s. So a SAS 2 part capable of supporting the DS4243 and the DS4246. Now these open with a swing latch lever that goes a little bit something like that. Let me spin this around and put this together and show you. These are also blanks, which are something that you can make yourself if you don't have, and they can perform almost the exact same function with just some pieces of cardboard. Oh, well, I guess that's a good time to show you these. These are little covers that go on the front, and I'll tell you what, you're gonna see people almost never sell them with these on, and that is a huge mistake. The IOM 6 is a SAS 2 module. This has a QSFP receptor on it, and that's different a little bit from what you might expect, like an 8088. However, they do make 8088 to QSFP cables. I've got that part listed down below. And after you have your first set cabled, if you're daisy chaining, you can just use additional QSFP cables to go from JBOD to JBOD. And then if you're doing high availability, you can, at the end of that, come back and go to your next one with another QSFP to 8088. There are a couple of HBAs that I would recommend. Definitely the LSI 9207 8E external HBA is a good one, and that is a PCIe 3 at 8 wide, so that gives you a tremendous amount of bandwidth. Also, the 9201, while a technically PCIe 2 part, does have an 8 wide and should be able to hit the maximum transfer rate of a JBOD. You could also go up to something like a 9305, and that would allow you to use the IOM 12s. However, the backplane being a SAS 2 part and mixing that with a controller that's a SAS 3 part, you're not going to go faster on a individual JBOD. However, if you have an aggregate of a bunch of JBODs that you're daisy chaining, that could be a really good way to go. That allows you to use a different form factor, the mini SAS HD connectors. So if you're also checking out the blanks, these are really nice. However, you can just cut a piece of cardboard if you don't have these with your system. And of course, these are the EMM blanks. So of course, you've got PSUs. The PSUs are really, I think these are the only PSUs that are not going to be screaming loud for a JBOD that is manufactured for enterprise use cases that is out there in this price bracket. Almost everything else is very, very, very much more expensive. So let's go ahead and assemble this. A couple quick things here. You're going to note that you have 4 different slots. So think of this as a pair of 2 and a pair of 2. So the first and the third are the ones that you need to populate, and the second and the fourth are essentially there for redundancy. If you're doing a multi-path configuration or something like that and you want HA failover, that's where you really need to start using those. The top one is going to have the connectors on the upper right-hand side. If you're from the back side looking at it, stick it into the upper right. I'm kind of behind it here, so it's a little difficult. So once you slide it in, scissor arm it in, that's it. And underneath that, you're going to put a blank, or if you don't have a blank, you could put a piece of cardboard. And then for the next one underneath that, we'll do the same. And all these part numbers and everything is written up on the website, so that way you can refer back to that really easily. So while you have 4, 2 is the minimum to not have this run at insanely loud levels. So definitely you don't want this running at a loud level. So definitely use 2 PSUs minimum. 4 PSUs can also operate. You may use a little bit more wattage, but it may actually reduce the noise level just a little bit. Also, if it comes with 4 and you don't want to have them all plugged in, you can actually remove the just handles from the number, let's see, so it's 1 and 3 that you have, and 2 and 4 that are empty. So 2 and 4, which 2 and 4, you can actually just pop the handle, pull it back a little bit. It'll still create an air dam, essentially doing this thing's job, and at the same time not be plugged in. If you have it plugged in, but you don't have it actually physically plugged into a power supply, then it's going to actually start really complaining, and that's going to fail out those essentially PSUs, detect them as not connected to the power, and really ramp your fans up. You definitely don't want that. You can also, just like with these, use a piece of cardboard cutout if you're interested in that. I've got the measurements on these on the website. So cut a piece of cardboard a little bit larger than those, jam it in there, should be good to go. So let me go ahead and get these in. And if you're wondering which one is which, so there's a key here that'll tell you which direction you're essentially using. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and the handle faces inward, but these are kind of, it doesn't matter which side they go in, they just rotate like that on these PSUs. So let's go ahead and get that slid in there. And there's a little finger that it'll grab onto when you latch it. And do be careful of sharp metal edges. I've definitely cut myself on JBODs and servers several times. As a matter of fact, I did that yesterday. Get in there. There we go. And now for these, they'll have a key on the same side, so just utilize that. And those should slide in pretty nice and easy. So this is what the populated back of a DS4246 or 4243 will look like. This is a pretty standard configuration that you're going to find out there for sale. Oftentimes they're going to be missing one of the blanks though, so like I said, you can just make your own blank and put it in there and it'll accomplish the same thing. These are built for balanced airflow. So the power supplies have the only fans moving air inside these. So there's not a fan wall in here, and the only fans that are going to be pulling the air through are in the PSUs themselves. So this is actually good because that means that you have the hard drives and everything, you know, pretty insulating, and the actual noise generation is pretty far in the back. Excellent if you have a wall or a partition that you're sinking these into for your rack mount like I do, and especially also nice the fact that this can run on 120 volt AC as well as, of course, 220, 240. This house we run like 245 VAC. So it can run on any of those, and you don't need to flip a switch to change it or anything like that. And we are going to be using a kilowatt today and a splitter to get some measurements on this. Let's go ahead and populate the hard drive caddies in here. And yeah, That's going to take a lot of screwing work. Check below for the screws in case you need them and links to caddies. And I'm going to go ahead and remove the 14 terabyte drives that I've got in the DE4600. And if you're interested in JBOD sizes and capacities and speeds, check out my mega article on the website that I wrote about that. And 60 drives, as it turned out, was definitely not able to be fully used by this system. The performance was just too slow. And that's because 60 drives, at the peak these hit, which is right around 220 megabytes per second, and then it slows down to about 150 as you continually fill up the drive more and more, saturates the SAS2 bus completely. And the expanders on each one of these trays limited to SAS2 speeds, even if you try to expand it out with the IOM 12 modules that they have. Well, they're not exactly IOM 12 for these, but they are still a SAS3 part, and they are very expensive. And they do work in here, but really you need the trays themselves to have SAS3 components as well. Let's go ahead, fire up the machine. This is with 2 PSUs and 2 IOM 6s, and of course 24 drives. Those are SAS drives. Let's get the wattage on it. And this is running off 120 VAC right now. And there's going to be a boot up noise that's higher as the fans kick on high. Initialization takes, just a few seconds, and then it'll quiet down. All right, so that's going to be closer to the wattage that you'll see, right around 200, not too bad. And it sounds like the fan's kicking down to its final little noise level. And I think we've got them all initialized now, so let's go ahead and take a reading right at the front here, about 6 inches away. So just under 40, right about 39. Right around 45. And another really nice thing about these JBODs is the fans are towards the rear of the power supplies. The fans are only in the power supplies also. There's not a fan wall in the middle here. So if you're thinking about the noise level, if you have a partition, really going to be a much quieter option than something that has a lot of open venting. So if you look at the amount of airflow space on these, it is tremendous on the DE4600. And of course, with 60 drives, you have a lot of fans, you have a lot of air that needs to be moved through here. In a 4U space, these do adequately cool it, and the systems know what the drive's temperature is, and they are going to draw more or less air to accommodate that. That's why it's a good idea also to factor in things like having an air conditioner right across so that it can hit things that are going to be very responsive to the temperature, like servers and JBODs with really cooled air. That way you can effectively cool and keep things in a happy noise state really easy. But yeah, overall, way better and very, very fewer decibels than what we are seeing with the DE6600s. So these guys will be my always-on JBODs versus the DE6600s. Definitely, I couldn't even edit the noise out. That's how bad it was. So these guys can definitely edit this noise out, especially when they're in there, you're barely gonna hear it. So there's one of our JBODs, and we've got 4 additional of the DS4246s that we're gonna be putting together into these racks. Just got our final IOMs, and so definitely make sure that you hit like and subscribe. So like I showed you, you need a HBA. I'm gonna be using 9207 8E. That's an external SAS HBA from LSI. And it is going to be at a P20 firmware, and they're gonna run in IT mode, which is definitely what you want. And you can check the full flash guide that I've got linked here and also in the description if you're interested in learning more about flashing your HBA. You also need to use SAS 8088 2 QSFP cables. The specific ones for this are linked below. Like I mentioned, don't try to put this into your rack with it fully loaded up. We're gonna be putting it up here, demonstrate really quick and see how the rails go in. The rails are these APC expandable, heavy duty, and also very affordable 2U rails, and they expand out quite nicely for most rack sizes. And usually these are very cheap, very, very cheap. I've got a full video on the APC rack rail hack, and you can fit quite a bit of different infrastructure on them. As a matter of fact, they're so solid, they're holding these without any issue. I'm using them on the DE6600s with 60 hard drives in each one. So let me go ahead and I'm gonna depopulate the DS4246, and I'm gonna take out the rear EMMs and also the power supplies, and that will make this incredibly lightweight metal chassis for me to toss in there. Your rails, you of course want the inside to be facing in like this. And these are really nice because you don't need to have a nut in here for these to attach to. With the grommet on it, take care of tightening this in place. So put one on the bottom. Of course, center that up a little bit on the hole whenever you get it in place. And then one at the very top. Two is the minimum. You could put 3 if you wanted to be even safer. And now on the back end, I'll do the same. So we have it emptied out here, and I've got the EMMs and the PSUs popped out of the back. Very lightweight whenever you do that. So let's get this tossed in here. And this is gonna be like the shortest live racking in this rack that's ever happened, because our new racks that we've got over there are gonna be replacing these. Really, you can see the pain that I'm having right now working with these racks. Never anything easy. Even stuff that should be easy, just because they're not as heavy duty as I really need. And always make sure that you've got at least one locking in on one of the sides, which is why you need to make sure that your bottom screw is the one in, because the second one up from that is going to be used for the locking on these. The topmost position doesn't have a hole that's up there, so that's where, of course, I mentioned putting the other one all the way at the top, and there's not one in the middle. Let's take a look really quick at the total that I paid and how many total bays and the total cost per bay. So I got 3 DS4243s at $250 each. That came out to $750. I got 2 DS4243s at $30 each, and that came out to 60. And all of those came with IOM3s, so I had to get a replacement IOM6 for everything. That's actually why I bought this DS4246, is it had two IOM6s in it already, so I can just pop those two IOM6s out, and that covers one of these. That leaves me needing 4 additional IOM6 modules. And that was only 30 bucks, so divide that by 2, that came out to $15 per IOM6 module, which, great deal. I did need to pick up some additional caddies, and the prices range from $5 down to $2.57. And of course, you want to look for bulks usually in this when you're shopping on eBay. That will usually save you the most money. And then I did have to pick up at double the cost, but I kind of knew that it was going to be somewhere in the $30 ballpark range. $30 for 4 of the other IOM6 modules for $120. All total, that was $1,134, and the total number of storage bays was 120. That comes out to less than $10 per storage bay for 120 storage bays, which is pretty bonkers, to be honest with you. And this is the same capacity that I currently have used in hard drives on that system. So I've got also the R730XD, and there's going to be another R730XD. I've got to do a transplant, and I may make a video out of that, from a broken R730XD chassis into the OK chassis of a R720XD, which just happens to be exactly the same. So like I mentioned earlier, there are some decent deals out there right now. $200 with shipping included, and that is, in my opinion, a really great deal, given that it comes with caddies on this one, and 24 caddies is, you know, a pretty good additional cost, and 2 IOM6s, and also 4 PSUs. I think that's a really solid deal on that one. And here's the ones that I bought, and this one, these two were a little bit rougher around the edges for sure. And here's the little 2246, which has the IOM6 modules, so you can just yank those out. And then a bunch of caddies, some jumper cables, which I already have a bunch of these, so I didn't need to buy cables. I've got so many cables, but if you are going to go with the NetApp and you're looking for the distance of the cable to jumper from the top JBOD to the bottom JBOD, you want the 0.5 meter cables, and you can see bulks of them for 16 are about 80 bucks. More caddies that I bought, and okay, here's another option that I wanted to show you. It's about $38, probably, you know, maybe do a make an offer if you were looking at the IOM 12, and you can see the 8644 format that they've got here, and you would want to use something like a LSI SAS 9305 16E, which has 4 ports, and that would of course be a mini SAS HD cable to mini SAS HD cable between that and your JBOD. But this would be a little bit better of a solution possibly if you're looking at buying new. I actually didn't see this price when I bought the others, or else I probably would have bought that for some of them also. But like I mentioned, I do have all the cables already also, and if you know the backplane is SAS 2, you're not going to go faster than SAS 2. So how much aggregate bandwidth are you trying to push through your JBODs basically comes down to, are you running a bunch of VDEVs on each one independently, which I'm not going to be doing that myself. So there is the total cost at the end of that was less than $10 per bay, which I am very, very happy with. Welcome back to the fleet, DS4246. It's been a while since there was a DS4246 in this spot, and with 4 additional, I'm looking forward to a new, better rack experience. Of course, hit like and subscribe. That is coming soon, and a huge shout out to all our channel members. You guys do make this kind of craziness possible. And I gotta say, I love the noise level of this compared to this. Actually, the UPS, it's a big UPS, so it is a big UPS. The UPS is substantially louder than this is right now. I mean, not a little bit, a lot of it, which is great because that means if I have 3 or 4 of these running at the same time, I don't think that's going to, even with the additive nature of decibels, be even overtaking the UPS. So those are going to be on parity. And if you're standing really close, like I am right here, of course I got my mic on right here, you can hear the noise level. Let me take this off for just a second. And now let me put you down at the actual UPS. and that UPS is quite a bit louder. So I hope this has given you quite a bit of information about the DS4246, 4243, and what to look for. Of course, like I mentioned when we were checking out some of them on eBay together, that one that's still there is a really good value. I don't know how long that'll stay, but keep your eyes open. Like I mentioned also, if you are gonna buy local, make sure you check out, Facebook Marketplace and stuff like that. Also, a lot of people like to list these and have them for local pickup only. That's how I got the deals that I got on mine. I hope you've had a great time, and I look forward to reading your comments. I will check you out next time.